Kanye, we need the album. Fans around the world just can't take another listening party. We cannot simply watch you ascend to the heavens only for you to reach the top and not bless us with that glorious body of art. And if you clicked on this video, you want answers. Well, I just might have them. My name is Patrick CC. Make sure you're drinking water while you're watching this video. Okay, but before I start, I just want to clarify that a lot of this is sort of speculation, and it's not necessarily backed by fact, but by information I gathered on the internet, and maybe it's even a bit of a conspiracy theory, I guess, if you want to call that. Might be a bit extreme, but just consider that. Kanye West is undoubtedly one of the greatest, if not the greatest artists our generation has seen develop. Not just as a rapper, not just as a producer, but an artist. Obviously, music is his biggest influence, but let's not even pretend like his fashion hasn't directly impacted the way the cool kids have dressed for the past 15 years. In 2020, Kanye struck a 10-year clothing deal with Gap, which is basically what my previous video was about. This deal with Gap ignited the most successful clothing drop Kanye has ever done, selling 35,000 jackets for $7 million in one night. That jacket look familiar? Oh yeah. Well, he was wearing that on the night of his first listening party, and it conveniently went on pre-sale that same exact night, which is the night he made $7 million. So you see where I'm going with this. Genius level marketing for sure. But am I suggesting that Kanye made a listening party in front of 42,000 people and 3.3 million watching online for an album that wasn't ready just to sell some jackets? No, but kind of yes. Kanye was a designer before a rapper. In 2006, he designed his first pair of Nikes. In 2007, he released his first shoe with Bathing Ape. 2008, he didn't design the shutter shades, but 100% made them globally recognizable, getting knocked off at every Walmart and boardwalk around the world. In 2009, he got an internship at Gap, where he spent all of his free time working, trying to learn the fashion industry quietly on the side. After that, he moved to Europe and interned at Fendi. Also, in the same year, he released his first Nike shoe, which created a sneaker craze that we haven't seen in a long time. In 2011, he got his first catwalk runway show, in which critics eviscerated him. 2012, we got the Nike Air Yeezy 2 release, which again broke the internet, and sneaker stores around the world had people camping out waiting for the release. But Kanye was fed up with Nike. He was bringing them so much value, yet they refused to give him royalties on his shoes. It was in 2013 when Ye showed us his obsession with fashion through various interviews. He talked about it more than music. He told us how he was going to be the first hip-hop designer and that he belongs in this space.
I asked them, Kanye West asked Nike, when does it come out? They said, we're not sure yet. So they told me, they ain't sure. Yeah. Mark Parker. I'm gonna put Mark Parker all on that Summer Jam screen. And by the way, Mark Parker, yes, I will still accept an investment in Donda.
Taking 1,000 meetings, attempting to get like backing to do clothing. It was just that level of frustration, and that's what, this is what frustration sounds like. Yeah.
We all called him crazy because we just knew him for his music. But in 2013, he struck a deal with Adidas. A good one. One where he earns a percentage of every shoe sold. The deal he worked 5 years on getting. And in my opinion, this is where music took a backseat and Kanye finally had the resources to achieve his real dream. To save time, that was an extremely brief rundown of Kanye's fashion history. I know there's so much else there that I didn't talk about. We could make a 10-hour video on just his influence and his history in fashion. But now that we got that out of the way, let's move forward to more of the Donda-related conversation. Because Kanye leaked his record label contract in 2020, we know that his partnership with UMG is quite terrible. Detailed financial reports related to his album Yeezus were among the leaked information, and it showed us that he was given an $8 million advance for the project, $4 million in production costs, and he asked for an additional $1.5 million. This is a total of $13,523,000. Not a bad payday. However, all of this is a loan that needs to be paid back to the label. We also found out that he gets a 22% royalty on his music, and the label gets 78%. So just this one album needs to generate $62,478,000 for Kanye just to break even with the label. This album, as of today, is 2 times platinum. Even if these were all pure album sales, so no streams, just people buying the album, and we know that's not the case, but even if they were, that would generate $20 million, still $40 million shy of him breaking even with the record label. So basically, Kanye's music isn't profitable anymore. I say it isn't profitable anymore because the next 3 albums he dropped after Yeezus were not as successful. And we do know that he was in the same contract that he leaked with UMG for these next 4 albums, Donda being the last one, maybe. Conveniently, in 2013, after Yeezus dropped, was when Kanye secured his Yeezy deal with Adidas. And since then, he has dropped 7 seasons or collections of clothing. Kanye created the most hyped shoe since Jordans. The Yeezy shoes have been growing in popularity year after year since their first release, absolutely dominating the streetwear market. In 2019, Adidas reported $1.3 billion in sales of Yeezy shoes. Kanye earns an 11% royalty on these sales, according to Forbes, making his takeaway $140 million. And since Ye owns 100% of Yeezy, that means he gets all of that $140 million. Let me simplify. Since 2013, Kanye has put out 4 albums, one of them with Kid Cudi. He put out 7 seasons of clothing, so his output is much higher on the clothing side. The album Yeezus he dropped 8 years ago still hasn't generated him a profit, but in 2019 alone he made $140 million on sneakers. In fact, he's probably made more money in 2019 than he has on his 3 most recent albums. His output is higher on clothing because it makes him more money. Duh. But also think about it like this. The record label is taking so much from Ye. Why would he keep giving them music? He's literally making them rich while he isn't turning a profit, and they don't want to renegotiate with him. Can we blame him for just focusing on Yeezy?
What I'm trying to say to y'all is this industry of what I'm trying to get into, ain't nobody never broke down. I invested my own money and lost money. I made t-shirts that made money. I made music that made money. But at the end of the day, Lucian Grain still cut my music checks. As powerful as my voice is, Lucian still runs 50% of the music industry.
Okay, now that we understand his clothing is way more successful than his recent music, let's talk about Donda. Here's the brief timeline of Donda. It was originally announced in July of 2020, 1 year ago. He tweeted out that the album was to drop in 3 days. Music fans went crazy. We were all waiting for the release, but it never came. And when it didn't drop, he never addressed it, he never talked about it, and he never gave us a new release date. 8 months later, Sci-Hi the Prince said he was working on Donda.
The Donda album? Are you working on that?
Yep. We're back working. That's why I'm out here too.
To be fair, not that many people saw that anyway. 1 full year later, Pusha T promoting the first listening party at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And before that first live listening event, that's pretty much all we knew about this. Because Kanye was just silent for a year. And actually, if you think about it, other than a couple Instagram posts, he hasn't even said anything. Like, we haven't heard him speak. I didn't mention this before, but most people know this. Artists make most of their money on touring or live events, concerts. The Yeezus album still isn't profitable from sales, but Kanye did make $30 million in live tour money from Yeezus. So maybe Kanye is just testing the waters. After basically a full year of silence and losing the presidential election, will people come see Ye perform an unreleased album in which the label can't take any money? Yes, they did. 42,000 people sold out the Mercedes-Benz Stadium on July 22nd, 2021. Average ticket price being $50, that's a cool $2 million. Also, Apple Music reported 3.3 million streams of this live show. If it wasn't obvious, people want to know what Kanye's working on. At the first listening party, we had absolutely no idea what we were going to hear. What was the sound Kanye was going to push? Who will be featured? After the event, we came out hearing a potential 29 features. What better way to stay relevant and in the conversation of 2021 than by having 29 different artists spanning from legends like Jay-Z, pop icons like The Weeknd, and upcoming talent like Vori. With Donda being anticipated to have 24 tracks, 29 features suggests that there might not even be any solo Ye songs. That's one way to maintain relevance. Who's gonna deny a Ye feature? We know Kanye is a perfectionist. During the Donda livestream event leading up to the second listening party on August 5th, we could see artists like Lil Yachty and 5EO Foreign pulling up to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to finish their verses. Y'all really thought Kanye was gonna submit an album last minute? Do you even know how long it takes to mix and master a song? People were finishing their verses the day of the listening party, and y'all thought the album was gonna drop that night? We've heard 10 different leaked versions of the single Hurricane over the past few years. Y'all thought the whole album, 24 tracks, was gonna get mixed, mastered, and finaled in a night, then previewed at a listening party, then released to the public? Come on. I think we'd be lucky to see it in a month. Just to reiterate, this Gap deal is huge. He made his legacy as a shoe designer, and he's finally going to be able to achieve his dream of everyone having access to Yeezy clothing. Affordable Yeezy clothing. Because if you didn't know and you didn't watch my previous video, his clothing hasn't really been that successful, not nearly as successful as his shoes. He finally has that opportunity with Gap. He does a listening party in this red jacket, and then it goes on sale that night, and he sells 35,000 jackets. This is also the first release that he's done with Gap. This is a really good first impression for all those Gap executives and those suit and tie people that doubted him, and he spent 10 years trying to convince them of how important it was and how worth it was for them to collaborate with Yeezy. What an immaculate first impression, selling that many jackets in one night.
I've dedicated the past 10 years of my life to this. I've spent 80% of my time working on this and 20% of my time working on music. I've spent 80% of my time working on this and 20% of my time working on music and 20% of my time working on music.
You might be wondering, well, he didn't sell any jackets for the second listening party, and it genuinely looked like he was trying to finish the project. So why did he do it? I know I made it seem like for this whole video that Kanye only cares about business and he doesn't care about music, but we know that he still loves music. Music will always be ingrained in Kanye. I'm not trying to suggest that music is nothing to him and he's totally moved on. But him loving music so much, making new sounds and new waves, is the only reason we're ever gonna get another song from him. Because every business expert would probably tell him to just stop making music. So literally the only thing we're banking on is how much Kanye loves music. That's the only way we're getting an album. I'm sure after the first listening party, he wanted to finish that album. He felt the energy he brought through music, and he realized how many people loved him, loved his music, and how much he missed it. But I think that business mind comes back pretty quick. Kanye is aware that his music relevance is important. He's expressed his struggles with this in 2013.
Because as I work on clothing more, I'm not rapping as much. So I'm not in the middle of that Future mix because I didn't do that feature. I'm not rapping as much. I'm not having as much finances. I'm losing relevancy. The relevancy is part of my power that allows my brand to be big. But then you get a Nike that could simply say, the Yeezys did good. That was a good job. Let me get you some more so you can start your own line, because obviously people lining up for it. You see what I'm saying? I'm juggling a lot of things at the same time.
He said it himself. When he focuses too much on clothes, which is what he did for the past 7 years, he loses musical relevance, and recent album sales indicate that this is true. When he does drop music, or he does tours and live shows, it allows him to earn money to fund the clothing dream. But now that he has successful shoes, Yeezy, he doesn't need the money from music. So literally the only reason he would need to drop music is to stay relevant. But if he sold out a stadium twice in a row for an album that wasn't even finished and got millions of people to tune in across the world, why would he drop the album? To put more money in the pockets of a record label that wants to own him until he dies and beyond? Why would he drop the album? When Yeezy Gap Jacket sold $7 million in one night and he still hasn't made back the $13 million loan from Yeezus 8 years ago? Why would he drop the album when he wanted to be a fashion designer since he was in 4th grade, and now at the age 44 he just got the biggest clothing distribution contract of his career, and Yeezy Gap is finally going to make him the biggest clothing designer in the world, after already being the biggest shoe designer in the world? Kanye is a billionaire. He thinks like a billionaire, he acts like a billionaire, and he makes decisions based on that fact. He did not get there by accident. He spent the last 2 decades being mocked and laughed at for trying to explore other avenues of art and business. And the great music he has dropped, although beloved by fans, hasn't generated nearly enough money to build the artistic empire he is so passionate about. And after all these years, the ball is finally in Ye's court. The world is finally appreciating him for the genius he is. Everything he said he was going to do He did. They finally understand why he was so crazy. And you think he got dragged through the mud so many times just to drop a highly anticipated album to sell 500K first week and owe his record label millions of dollars? For people to forget about it next week in a world where everything is just handed to us, we can search up, have access to anything we want with a click of a button? Oh no. Kanye is one man with all that power. He's gonna make you yearn for it. He will disappear for months and not say anything because you won't tell him when he can and can't drop an album. He's gonna get all of your attention because when he makes a move, the culture shifts. The world reacts when he opens his mouth. So he will drop an album whenever he wants. And in the process, he will make a ton of money from your attention. And no matter how much he teases you and doesn't give you what you want, you'll be right there watching and waiting when he does make his move.
So what I want to explain to everybody out there is like, I make music, I can do it, but I shouldn't be limited to only one place of creativity. And it's literally only like 1 or 2 or 3 reasons why I haven't been able to break that down.